Jerusalem, a name that echoes through the ages, conjuring images of ancient stones and timeless devotion, a city of gold, stone and spirit, sacred to Jews, Christians and Muslims alike. Its streets have witnessed prayers whispered in countless tongues, and its walls have absorbed the hopes and sorrows of millions. For Christians, Jerusalem is the hallowed ground where Jesus was crucified, buried, and, as they believe, rose from the dead. Pilgrims have journeyed here for centuries, seeking to walk in his footsteps and touch the stones of their faith. For Jews, it is the eternal capital, the heart of their spiritual world, and the site of the ancient temples where generations have come to mourn, to pray, and to hope for renewal. For Muslims, it is Al-Quds, the noble sanctuary where the Prophet Muhammad is believed to have ascended to heaven during his night journey, making it the third holiest site in Islam. This convergence of faiths has made Jerusalem a place of devotion and pilgrimage, but also a city marked by tension, longing, and, tragically, conflict. Here, the sacred and the contested are woven together. For centuries, Christian pilgrims visited under Muslim rule, often braving long and perilous journeys. But by the late 11th century, the rise of the Seljuk Turks brought new dangers, disrupting these sacred travels and threatening the fragile peace. Tales of violence, hardship, and humiliation against pilgrims began to reach Europe, carried by returning travelers and merchants. These stories, whether exaggerated or true, fueled outrage and fear across the continent. Jerusalem's fate became a rallying cry, igniting passions in churches, marketplaces, and royal courts. The city's suffering became a symbol of Christian unity and a call to action. The city's spiritual gravity would soon draw armies from the west, knights, peasants, and kings alike, setting the stage for a clash of civilizations that would reshape history and leave a legacy still felt today. The crossroads of faith was about to become a battlefield, as the dreams and destinies of empires collided within Jerusalem's ancient walls. The world would never be the same. Jerusalem's story was entering a new and turbulent chapter, one that would echo for centuries to come. Europe in the late 11th century was restless and divided, its kingdoms and principalities locked in constant struggle for land, power, and influence. The daily lives of its people were marked by uncertainty, as shifting alliances and feuds threatened the fragile peace. Yet, beneath this turmoil, a new force was quietly gathering momentum. The papacy, once just a spiritual authority, was rising in power and ambition, seeking to assert its influence not only over the church but over the secular rulers of Europe as well. The Pope's word was beginning to carry weight far beyond the walls of Rome. Meanwhile, far to the east, the Byzantine Empire, once the bulwark of Christendom, was reeling from a devastating defeat by the Seljuk Turks at Manzikert. Its emperor, desperate and surrounded by enemies, sent envoys westward, pleading for help from fellow Christians. Pope Urban II saw in this crisis a unique opportunity, not just to aid Byzantium, but to channel the violent energies of Europe's warring knights into a single, righteous cause. He envisioned a united Christendom, its warriors fighting not each other, but for a higher purpose. At the Council of Clermont in 1095, Urban delivered a stirring sermon. He called upon nobles, knights, and commoners alike to take up the cross and embark on a crusade to reclaim Jerusalem from Muslim control. He promised forgiveness of sins and eternal salvation for those who answered the call. The response was immediate and electric. Deus vult, God wills it, echoed across the crowd, as men and women alike were swept up in a wave of religious fervor and hope. The promise of spiritual reward, the lure of adventure, and the hope for wealth and land drew people from every walk of life. Nobles, peasants, merchants, and even entire families began to prepare for the long and perilous journey ahead. The crusading movement swept across Europe like a storm, transcending class, language, and borders. For the first time, a shared sense of purpose united people who had once been bitter rivals. The spark ignited at Clermont quickly became a wildfire, spreading from village to village, city to city, as thousands pledged themselves to the holy cause. Armies began to gather, banners were raised, and the roads filled with pilgrims and warriors alike. The march to the Holy Land was set in motion, unstoppable and full of hope and uncertainty. The First Crusade had begun, a journey that would reshape the world, leaving a legacy of faith, conflict, and transformation for generations to come. As the armies departed, the world watched in awe and trepidation. witnessing the moment when faith became a call to arms, and history was set on a new and uncertain path. The First Crusade was chaos and conviction, a mass movement, not a single army. The People's Crusade ended in disaster, but the main force, led by Europe's greatest nobles, pressed on. After grueling marches and brutal sieges, the Crusaders reached Jerusalem in 1099. The city fell after a bloody assault. What followed was a massacre, Muslims and Jews slaughtered, the streets running red. The Crusaders, weeping with exhaustion and zeal, gave thanks at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Jerusalem was theirs, but at a terrible cost. The conquest would haunt relations between faiths for centuries. The Holy City was now a symbol of both triumph and tragedy. The Crusaders had achieved their goal, but the price was steep. The world recoiled at the violence. A new era had dawned in blood. With Jerusalem captured, the Crusaders faced the challenge of rule. Godfrey of Bouillon refused the title of king, becoming defender of the Holy Sepulchre, but died within a year. His brother Baldwin seized the crown, becoming the first Latin king of Jerusalem. Baldwin expanded the kingdom, capturing key coastal cities and securing vital trade routes. The Kingdom of Jerusalem, Outremer, was born, a fragile outpost in hostile lands. Baldwin encouraged Christian settlement and built the foundations of a new state. The Crusader kingdom was now a reality, but its survival was never guaranteed. Surrounded by enemies, it relied on strength, diplomacy, and faith. Outremer became a beacon for pilgrims and adventurers from the west. The experiment in the east had begun. The Kingdom of Jerusalem was a feudal state, but one forged for war. The king ruled with the Haute Cour, a council of powerful nobles. The Franks were a minority, ruling over a diverse population of Eastern Christians, Muslims, and Jews. Italian merchants dominated the ports, fueling trade between East and West. The military orders, the Knights Templar and Hospitaller, became the kingdom's elite defenders. These warrior monks built mighty castles and protected pilgrims, answering only to the Pope. Their discipline and zeal made them both invaluable and independent. Outremer was a crossroads of cultures, faiths, and ambitions. Its survival depended on unity, strength, and the sword. In the 12th century, the Kingdom of Jerusalem stood at a crossroads, its golden age threatened by powerful new adversaries and internal strife. The city's ancient walls, battered by time and conflict, bore silent witness to the uncertainty that gripped its people. Amidst this turmoil, an unlikely hero emerged, Baldwin IV, remembered by history as the Leper King. His story would become one of the most remarkable tales of resilience and leadership in the medieval world. Stricken with leprosy from a young age, Baldwin faced a future that seemed destined for isolation and despair. Yet, he defied every expectation, ascending the throne at just 13 years old. Despite his youth and illness, he ruled with a sharp mind and a courageous heart, earning the loyalty of his subjects and the admiration of his enemies. Baldwin refused to let his disease define him. He donned armor and led his armies into battle, and presided over the royal court with wisdom beyond his years, navigating the treacherous politics of the Crusader states. His leadership inspired respect and loyalty from both friend and foe, uniting rival factions under his banner, if only for a time. Baldwin's greatest test came in the form of Saladin, the formidable Muslim leader whose ambition threatened the very existence of the kingdom. In 1177, though gravely ill and barely able to ride, Baldwin refused to retreat. He led a daring cavalry charge at the Battle of Montcassard, catching Saladin's forces off guard and shattering their army in a stunning victory that echoed across Christendom. The triumph bought the kingdom precious time, but Baldwin's health continued to fail, and the shadow of his illness grew longer with each passing year. As his strength waned, factionalism and bitter succession crises erupted, weakening the realm from within and threatening the fragile unity he had fought so hard to maintain. Baldwin struggled to secure a stable future for his people, but at just 24, his remarkable life was cut short. His death left Jerusalem divided and vulnerable. Yet Baldwin's courage and determination became legend, inspiring generations to come. His story was told in whispers and songs, a beacon of hope in dark times. But with his passing, the kingdom's golden age faded. The walls that once stood strong now seemed to crumble, and the gates closed against a gathering storm. The enemies of Jerusalem, sensing weakness, began to close in, preparing for the final assault that would decide the city's fate. The Leper King's legacy was one of extraordinary bravery and profound tragedy, a testament to the power of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. As thunder rolled over Jerusalem's ancient stones, the fate of the holy city hung in the balance. The storm was gathering, and the world would soon change forever. As the Crusaders quarreled, Saladin united Egypt and Syria, forging a powerful Muslim empire, his ambition to reclaim Jerusalem and drive out the Franks. Saladin's reputation for chivalry and piety inspired his followers and impressed his enemies. The spark for war came when Renal of Chatillon attacked a Muslim caravan, breaking a truce. Saladin vowed revenge, raising a massive army in 1187. King Guy of Lusignan led the Crusaders to disaster, marching into the arid plain near the Horns of Hattin. Surrounded and parched, the Crusader army was destroyed. The defeat left the kingdom defenseless. Saladin's moment had come. The fate of Jerusalem was sealed. The defeat at Hattin shattered the Crusader kingdom. Saladin captured King Guy and executed Reynold, fulfilling his oath. The true cross was lost, and city after city surrendered to Saladin's forces. Only Tyre held out as Saladin marched on Jerusalem. Balian of Bouillon organized a desperate defense, but knew resistance was futile. Negotiations spared the city from massacre. Saladin allowed Christians to leave peacefully, even paying ransoms for many. On October 2, 1187, Jerusalem fell, peacefully this time. Saladin's mercy became legend, contrasting sharply with the Crusaders' earlier brutality. The loss of Jerusalem sent shockwaves through Europe, sparking the Third Crusade. Though Richard the Lionheart would reclaim some territory, Jerusalem was never retaken. The heart of the kingdom was lost forever. After Jerusalem's fall, the Crusader kingdom shrank to a coastal strip around Acre. Internal strife and failed crusades plagued the Second Kingdom. Brief diplomatic gains were quickly lost. The Mamluks soon rose as a new threat. In 1291, Acre fell after a brutal siege, ending the Crusader presence in the Holy Land. The Kingdom of Jerusalem left behind castles, legends, and a legacy of cultural exchange and conflict. It shaped trade, warfare, and imagination in Europe for centuries. But it also deepened the rift between Christianity and Islam, a legacy still felt today. The stories of Baldwin, Saladin, and Richard the Lionheart endure in books and film. The Lost Kingdom remains a symbol of faith, ambition, and tragedy. Its echoes still haunt the crossroads of history.